Good evening, everyone. Happy Thursday. I hope everybody is loving the perfect. I guess it got a little bit warm in St. Louis today, but if you're in St. Louis, I feel like we've had some great fall weather, which has really made me feel primed for us to talk about our books this evening. So I hope if you're also in St. Louis, you've gotten to enjoy that, or you're located in another city that's giving you a perfect fall. My name is Stephanie. I am the director of events and curated collections for The Novel Neighbor. We're an independently owned and operated bookstore in Webster Groves, Missouri, which is really in St. Louis, if you're not familiar. And we have two incredible authors to talk about this evening. I can think of no better way. I cannot believe that we're already at the end of October. That I can't wrap my head around. Somebody told me that November is next week, and that was mind-boggling to me. But we are so close to Halloween. This feels like the perfect way to kick off the last weekend before we get to celebrate Halloween. I think one of our authors tonight has been talking to a Halloween party this weekend. So maybe we'll get a rundown of what is planned for that. But our first author that we're celebrating is Maureen Kilmer for Hex Education. A little bit about Maureen, and of course I lost my page as I was getting ready to tell you. There we go. Maureen Kilmer graduated from Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, and lives in the Chicago suburbs with her husband and 3 children. She thankfully has not had to battle the forces of darkness until going to Costco on a Saturday, which does count. She was wondering if that counts. I think Costco on a Saturday counts. If you're in St. Louis, it's Trader Joe's on a Saturday. The Brentwood Trader Joe's. That's the thing that really means that you've battled the forces of darkness. She is also the author of Suburban Hell, which is her horror debut. So Hex Education, that's our first author this evening. Our second author this evening is KJ Dell'Antonia for Playing the Witch Card. You might think that name sounds familiar because of a, semi-famous book called Chicken Sisters. A little bit about KJ. She is the former editor of the New York Times Motherlode and the co-host of the #AmWriting podcast, as well as the author of How to Be a Happier Parent, In Her Boots, and the instant New York Times bestseller and Reese's book club pick, The Chicken Sisters. She lives with her family on a small farm in Lyme, New Hampshire, but retains an abiding love for her childhood in Texas and Kansas. So please help me welcome KJ and Maureen. Hi.
Hey.
Hello.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Fantastic. Ready for Halloween and spooky season.
We are both hosting Halloween parties. Mine is tomorrow night, and it is all teenagers. And my job actually is to wear, I have a dark, so we've always had Halloween parties, so we have tons of costumes. So I have this dark cape, and it actually has a veil that sort of goes over your face, or I can wear a shiny silver mask. And my job is to walk around and remove any substances from any teenagers that have them, because they're not supposed to. So, and I actually will find that far easier to do while wearing a threatening. I might carry a scythe. I have one. So
you should really get scary about it.
I'm really into it. I wish I were a little taller, but it's maybe I could wear some heels.
Well, my Halloween party is mostly children. We host our neighborhood Halloween party, and usually, we invite everyone, and several people can't make it. Usually, oh no, this year everyone is free. So we are having over 50 people here, and if any of my neighbors are watching, I have not done anything for the party, but it will be fantastic.
It'll be amazing.
It's going to be great, I promise. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be wonderful.
It's going to be fab.
We were joking yesterday that we feel like we're planning a Halloween party because we're knee deep in planning. I don't know if you've heard of a little book called Fourth Wing, but we're planning our midnight release party, and it involves a lot of dragons. And so it kind of feels like you're planning a Halloween party because it's so close to Halloween. I mean, they're only a week apart. So we're like, this is actually our version of a Halloween party this year. All of the brain energy is going to planning that kind of Halloween party.
Dragons.
That I really wish that we were doing a follow-up with you all on Saturday morning, that we could hear a report out of how the party went. But
our party's not till Saturday night, so Saturday morning I will be looking like a witch myself, running around the house. You have
2 days for this party that you plan nothing for. You're so in the clear, Maureen.
Kids, they just want sugar, and there's going to be a bounce house here, so I think
you're done.
You're done. Yeah.
Some drinks for drinks, Costco for drinks for those grown-ups, and
exactly, the parents will be happy, the kids will be happy, and
everyone will be I'm like now wondering about everybody who's watching, feel free to jump in with your own, if you have to plan a Halloween story this party
Give
this
me some
weekend.
tips.
Yeah, send Maureen some tips.
I got
Give her some
48
easy
hours.
ideas. We will not talk about strictly Halloween all night long, but I do have a follow-up question before we get off of that. And I am wondering, like, what is when you reflect upon Halloween, do you have like a favorite Halloween costume that you like still think about? Even from like your youth, doesn't have to be one that you've done recently.
Can I say the one I'm going to do this year?
Yeah.
So, it's my current favorite. So my daughter is a big Taylor Swift fan. So guess who I'm going as? So she picked out the era. I'm going as the 22 Taylor, I guess. I forget the era. And my husband's going as Travis Kelce. So they just need to not break up in the next 48 hours. So this will be.
I think you're in the clear.
I was totally going to do that. Only my dog was going to be Travis Kelce, not because my husband isn't willing, but the only Halloween outing we had was actually tonight, so I didn't end up doing it. And now I have to be dressed as the Grim Reaper and take care of teenagers. But we have had an annual tradition. So if, or I hope I can say when, you read Playing the Witch card, or if you've already read it, there's a spooky trail in it. We actually had an annual tradition at our house of putting on a spooky trail every year until 2020. And it was organized by me, haunted by the adults, and so petrifying that a kid who is heading to the Olympics next year as a rower once walked to the beginning of it, looked at it, burst into tears, and then turned around. So
that's legit.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's legit.
That's why I tested my friends. Like, if you were the kind of person that took pity on a weeping child on the Halloween spooky trail and tried to soothe them, you were out. Like, that was it. No, they just had to keep going. One, we gave them glow sticks, and we said, these are special glow sticks. They only last for 20 minutes. Go.
Run.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
That is like wow. That brought me back to a memory I had not thought of in a long time, which was that like one year, I think we were like in 6th grade, my family planned like a Halloween party for my friends and I, and my brother-in-law at the time owned an arcade business. And so they like decked out their garage in an arcade, and that was like the holding room. So you like could play, we were just on like free play for games. And then they took you in groups of 3 and walked you around their house. And the very end of it, my dad would start a chainsaw and chase after you. Like, he took the blade off of the chainsaw.
We did that one year.
The chain.
Yeah. We had that one year too.
And it really was like, it like ended some people's lives, I think. Like their childhood died a little bit that night.
Yeah, we had a year where we picked them up at the end because we live in a rural, so they had to walk through the spooky woods, and we picked them up in the air in a big giant SUV, and the person driving was like, hey, how was it? Did you survive? And they were like, yes, it was great. It was great. And then 2 people dressed as the clown from It like leapt out of the back.
That's heinous, KJ.
I know. And I don't even like being scared. I only like scaring people.
If any of Maureen's neighbors are watching, what's actually going to happen is she's surprising you all with a spooky trail. You don't know that she's about to traumatize all of your children.
We're going to be messing with chainsaws. And
we're giving her all the ideas.
It's like, I'm sure you guys have probably seen Hocus Pocus. I always talk about how in the scene where all the parents are gathered at the party, like when the kids are getting bewitched, I always watch that and I'm like, I want to go to that party, like not the bewitching part, like you know, I want my kids to be safe, but it looks so fun. So I would love to do that.
It looks really fun.
Yeah,
and then you can
I did this is I want to go to a big Halloween party with costumes and stuff, and nobody ever has one. It's very sad.
You can come to Chicago and come to mine. It sounds so.
But I can't be dressed as Taylor Swift because you'll already be dressed as Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
it's a different era.
I was going to be red. I've got the beret.
You could just be red instead.
I'll just be
no, you're allowed to be that.
I've got fake bangs.
I had 2. I ordered 2 wigs off Amazon, and they arrived, and it's questionable what's going to happen because it's like plastic. And my daughter took one look, and she's horrified. And listen,
wow.
We'll see if I can pull this off.
Yeah, as you can imagine, being in Missouri, the Travis Kelce is really playing well here. There are already some built-in fans, so it's really like uniting the state. I've only heard a couple comments about how it's ruining football. So, all of that to say, I would like to circle back to the fact that KJ, you said it right before you made that comment, you were like, well, if or when somebody reads my book, and I want you to know that somebody has already said, I loved the spooky trail in your book. People watching tonight have already read your book.
When I had an event in my town and a bunch of my friends who have done this with me for many years were sitting there, and I was reading it. I was reading a bit with the spooky trail, and I just started to laugh because there were people that like I had made sit in trees and drop nets on people, and people that I had made sit in the woods holding hot chocolate and said, okay, so just make a lot of noise in between the kids so the bears don't. Anyway, yeah.
That's amazing.
You either loved me for this or you hated me for this. It was.
I think I'm like firmly in the love category, just as somebody who's tuning freshly into this. Say somebody 10 minutes into this live is like, this is amazing. Love the energy. I don't actually know what either of your books are about. I'm tuning in because I want to learn about your books. Maureen, do you want to kick us off in telling people like, what is your elevator pitch for, it can be longer than an elevator pitch. We have more than 10 floors to go. But what is kind of the synopsis of Hex Education?
Sure. So Hex Education is about 3 lapsed witches who they dabbled in witchcraft in college a little bit, kind of doing just small things here and there, like a spell to help them pass the test, have your crush notice you kind of thing. And as they got further into it, it started really working. So they started trying, more ambitious spells. So on the night that they attempted their most ambitious spell yet, something went wrong and a fire started and they burned down their dorm. As well as some people were injured in their dorm, but no one ever found out that they were the ones that created or started this fire. So fast forward 20 years later, and our main character, Sarah, is living a great life. She's a luxury realtor on the North Shore of Chicago, which is a fancy area. I do not live there. She's married to an adoring husband, has great twin teenagers, but she still has magic powers, but she uses them in secret. Kind of in small ways, like to order more groceries, make sure the raccoons stay out of her garbage cans, like a secret magical assistant. But then there's a commemoration ceremony for the fire, and she's reunited with her old coven, and the magic becomes turbocharged. Her fridge stocks 30 pounds of boar's head lunch meat for school lunches. Her broom becomes self-aware, and her cat, Katie Purry, who is a favorite I keep hearing, which is wonderful. Actually, she's right behind me. This is Katie Purry. And it's my cat, and she is exactly like her. She does not talk. My cat starts talking. And her husband has no idea. So when the cat's ordering Secret Life of Pets on Demand, she has to be like, yep, that was me. I just really love that movie. So Sarah has to figure out how to kind of hide this turbocharged magic and reunites with her coven to try to get it to stop, and also maybe see what other magic they can still do. So that's Hex Education.
Can we just take a moment to discuss that you got specific about the type of lunch meat that the fridge ate?
Boar's Head Sausalito turkey. It's a big hit around here.
I was like, is that
it's
Killer House
favorite? So if I could stock that, I would stop having to go to the grocery store like every other day because we're out of it. Children eat pounds of it. I do not know why.
And it is truly the funniest thing when her protagonist is like trying to get rid of the stuff and the cat is, yeah. No, it's me. I wanted to watch that movie. I love it.
It's me.
I'm sorry. I've been hiding this from you all my life, but
it was that awesome. Pet Cemetery that she kept ordering.
Yeah, it's her fave.
Oh my gosh. I think that I'm already seeing people in the chat that if they weren't sold in this book, you definitely sold them on this. And great news, you have a whole weekend ahead of you. So it's like the perfect time to read it. We have copies. We have signed book plates. We have all the things for everybody. KJ, playing the witch card.
So, my editor likes to call it Gilmore Girl meets practical magic, and that's actually not a bad description. So my main character, Flair, was raised by her mom, who had her at 17, and it was not a successful childhood. And her mom had a tendency to use the family deck of magic tarot cards to make things happen, and they always went badly. So at some point, Flair stole the tarot cards and just got rid of them. And that was it. The magic was gone. huge relief for everyone, right? So Flair goes off, gets herself through culinary school, becomes a very successful pastry chef, marries a successful chef, has a lovely teenager, but the successful chef is a jerk, and he cheats, and he's awful.
I know what you wanted to say there.
Yeah, I decided not to. And he cheats, and he's awful. So she scoops up the teenager, and she heads home to the small town in Kansas where her grandmother lived and where she wanted to be raised, except her mother would only send her there for the summers and always came to pick her up no matter how much Flair really wanted to stay. So, but her grandmother's gone, and she's left her the bakery. And Flair's going to go start a whole new life for herself. And the one thing she is not going to do is restart her grandmother's fortune-telling business out of the back door of the bakery. But the tarot cards have different ideas. And then her mom shows up with her ex in the trunk of her car, and it all goes pretty badly from there.
People in the chat would like to point out that Flair lives in St. Louis with said chef.
It's true.
In time.
Yeah, I grew up in Texas and Kansas, primarily Kansas, and it's just where I like to set things. It's like where I'm comfortable. In Her Boots is set in New Hampshire, which is where I live now. But yeah, I feel like Kansas needs more cute small towns. Like the South gets all the cute small towns, and like sometimes like the West Coast, like up in Washington, and definitely New England has plenty of cute. But the South, Kansas has witches too. I'm here to tell you.
Kansas has witches too. We do. Everyone likes. I mean, they call us the flyover states for not a reason. Maureen, you're kind of better in Chicago. St. Louis is making a name for herself. She's really like showing up and showing out lately. But yeah, there's it's fine. Okay. My question for you is, and there's no right or wrong answer here. But because your book is pitched as Gilmore Girls meets Practical Magic, are you a Gilmore Girls fan?
Oh yeah. One of my daughter's name is Rory. So I got that. And her real name is Lorelai. And the awful thing is that she could not as a child. She is now 18 and can pronounce her name just right, fine, but she could not pronounce the letter R. So yeah, that was
tough. That was tough for a minute.
Right there. And yeah, so my older daughter, whose name is not Rory, because that would just be kind of overkill, watched the whole thing through, and I watched it with her. And now my younger daughter is also watching the whole thing.
That's the thing. My 13-year-old daughter told me, like, it was like last week, she's like, Mom, everyone at school is really into Gilmore Girls now. And I was like, wow, it's come back. That's awesome.
It's all the TikToks, man. I'm not sure why, but absolutely. The TikToks love, and I know it's not the TikToks, love Gilmore Girls.
Right?
Yeah.
Here's a question. Do you feel, we won't talk about Gilmore Girls too long, but I'm curious with the youth, are they, how like you do a rewatch of Gilmore Girls, and every time you rewatch it, the right opinion is at least that Emily Gilmore isn't as terrible as you initially thought she was when you like started to watch it. How does this play for the younger audiences when they're like when your daughters watched it, did they immediately pick up on that, or I
think they were frustrated with Lorelai. I think they definitely had a sense, because they're just different than we were. When I was growing up, like I don't know, it was the thing. My kids are less. We're reasonably tight. They aren't as like anxious to get the heck out of the house as frankly I was. So I think I hear that with a lot of my friends as well. So I just think they have a more like broad, ranging ability to see things from other people's perspectives. So I don't think they're just emphasizing with, and also, I mean, they're emphasizing with Rory. And Rory can see that Emily is not that bad most of the time. So that's typically who they're kind of there with.
That's a fun little insight into how I'm always like curious how it ages, because I think it's different when you've seen
it holds up pretty decently. Honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, some things just don't. My favorite thing that so doesn't hold up is the movie Risky Business. There is no element of the movie Risky Business that would be acceptable today. Think for a minute. Just put yourself, if you remember the plot of that.
It's been a while, but yeah.
My teenagers are about to have a party. And my son was like, maybe we should hide the, valuable things. And I'm like, we don't really have any valuable things.
You're like, sure, babe, we can hide the valuable things.
Yeah.
People shouldn't break and I'll hide it because it's all pretty good.
Wow.
Anyway, but there's literally, I mean, he throws a party, breaks all the things in his parents' house, and then has his prostitute girlfriend bring in her prostitute friends to sleep with his friends for money to fix all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing in that plot is okay. Nothing except the part where Tom Cruise dances in the beginning.
Wow. It's like I recently had my kids watch the original National Lampoon's Vacation. I mean, and that came out like in 78 or something. And I had only, unbeknownst to me, seen the version that was on like TBS.
Oh no.
We sit down for family movie night. My youngest is like 8. And I'm like, what is this rated? They were like, is that the mom from Christmas Vacation taking her shirt off? Whatever. It was like, oh, kids. So they all watched it with pillows. We'd be like, all right, put them up. It was way more hardcore than I ever knew. So lesson learned.
What a great flag for some parents watching. Just to remember that.
Mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made.
We learned from them, I think.
A question I have, whoever wants to go first, is just in general, I think something that's so strong in both of your books is just like getting attached to our cast of characters very quickly, and feeling super invested in them and like wanting to follow the storyline because you just like care about them so much. And they're so fun. So I'm wondering what the process is for you on developing a character. Like not even like we can go into your individual books as characters, but it's like when you sit down to write as authors who have multiple books out at this point, like, do you know everything about your characters before you write them? Like, do you write character sheets and like you can tell us everything from like their Myers-Briggs to their Enneagram to what their favorite color is? Or do they kind of like reveal themselves to you? Or is it a little bit of both? Like what happens when you're developing your characters?
Well, I have 46 books back here on things like that. So what I like to do is write an entire book and then figure out who the character was supposed to be and then throw that book away and write a better book.
What a great process.
Great system. I love it.
I am very familiar with this system.
Oh, no.
I feel like I don't know the character until the book is done, which is like a horrible way to write. And I spend so much time in revisions, but like, I feel like I need to take the journey with the character and then step back and look at it and figure it out. It's kind of like, it's a long introduction for me. And then I can go back and actually put the correct character traits into the character. But no, I mean, I wish I was a writer where, these characters spring fully formed from my head. I've heard people say that.
And then they talk to you, like you just start writing and they just.
Right. I couldn't stop writing because I'm like, I want that. That would be way easier.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But alas.
I've thought about like the whole the Enneagram in particular, or like Clifton Strengths, like writing, because if anybody knows Clifton Strengths, someone once, this is so dweeby, almost just never mind, but there's a Clifton Strength called Winning Others Over, so it's called WOO, WOO. And so
I'm familiar with a WOO.
Ted Lasso is all WOO.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so genius. I'm gonna like come up with a character that's all something, but I just it didn't really happen that way.
I don't think strengths are dweeby at all. I love that you just brought them up. I love a little strength finders test. Okay, mine are on a post-it right here. What are yours?
Strategic, achiever, input, focus, maximizer, significance. Mine are kind of scary.
Mine are
Wonderful.
I think that they're awesome.
Mine are like, get out of the way. I have zero empathy. So there's for anyone who doesn't know this, there are like the one kind of strength that's like people strengths. I don't have any of those. Like none.
That's what happens when you're a writer.
Yeah, I got nothing.
We can write people, we just can't interact
It's
with
best for me not to. Well, actually, I'm great talking to people. I have lots of positivity. I just don't have a lot of empathy, apparently. Which, well,
That's okay. I think
I
that
use
you
my
have to have
other-
some empathy to be an author because your books build empathy for other people. So
apparently, I'm finding it in other ways. So.
yeah, it's just coming out in different ways.
I think that's where we spend our empathy, is there on the page.
There we go.
That's our purpose. That's our mission.
Maureen, do you know your strengths?
Like in general? Or
No, sorry, your
it's
strength
not
finders.
party
Your
planning.
Clifton strengths.
It's a very specific nerdy thing.
It's a very specific nerdy
Not
thing.
party planning.
Not party planning. That's fair. I don't know if that's a Clifton strength. It should be though. That should be somebody's own Clifton strength. Maureen, you can start this. This is gonna question again. That's gonna be for both of you. What character in your book surprised you the most that by the end of it they like revealed themselves to you in some way that was like the most unexpected for you?
So I can't technically say it without like totally ruining the book.
Don't ruin the book.
For people who haven't read it, but there is a character who I very much wanted to be good, and she was not. She, she was bad. But I first wrote it as her being good, and I kind of got to the end and I was like, oh no, there's something missing. This character is going to have to turn evil. So that was kind of a bummer because I like her. So that surprised me.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's a great thing that people can now keep in mind if they haven't read it,
I'm
or
sorry.
if they're not like, they haven't finished it yet, that like you tried. You tried and it just wasn't happening for anybody.
I did everything I could to make it work, and it, it's not her, it's me.
It's not on the cards. KJ, do you have somebody like that?
So I also won't spoil anything, but my first ending, I don't want to spoil anything. So there was a character I didn't think, it was sort of the opposite. Like I didn't think I liked this person, and I thought their ending was going to go way differently than it did. Let's just say the ending was a lot darker than the first draft, or not even the first draft. Like the book actually sold was it went way over the edge. My editor was like, "Well, this is horror." I was like, sorry. But then I rewrote it. She didn't even they were fine with it. But I don't know. I liked this. I liked a character better than I expected to, and I wanted things to be different on the off chance I get to go back to this world.
Oh,
which is not at the moment in the cards, but
hopefully it isn't.
You never know.
It's a possibility.
Kind of going off of that, of speaking in this world, what made you, I feel like playing the witch card is a little bit different. There's similarities, and you mentioned some earlier of like, I think that you love giving us like a small town somewhere situated, not South, although you occasionally break that mold, but like you love to give us like a small town in Kansas or something that we can relate to in that way. And so there's definitely like things that I'm like, oh yes, I see like that this is a KJ book. I see some of where this came from before, but in also many ways, playing the witch card is kind of different for you. What made you enter this like witchy kind of like supernatural magic-y space?
So yeah, the best comp would probably be if it was like the Chicken Sisters meets Practical Magic, but the Gilmore Girls thing sells a little better. True. So there's actually a ghost in Chicken Sisters, but she doesn't do a lot. She does, but anyway. So I'm always, because I really like to write worlds where people are really like coming from their family and like are really entrenched in a long history of family. I think ghosts and magic are often a piece of that. And then I just always wanted to write a witchy book. I love to read books with magic in them. I love, I love tarot. I have read tarot since I was a teenager, so I love that. I am waiting anxiously for my mom to decide that I am old enough to hear the secret of the family magic. She is still denying it. So I got nothing so far, but my fingers are crossed. She's still hale and hearty. Maybe she's going to pass something interesting on to me someday.
Has she given you like a time?
She denies it. She just says it's not real. But she's good. She's a good faker. That's my theory.
What? What?
Anyway, it's what I love to read. And I write what I love to read. And I think that at the moment that I was writing Chicken Sisters, and I didn't like write it during 2020 or anything, but I just really I wanted to do something that would just give me a whole lot of fun challenge.
Yeah. I love this for you. I love that you gave us a witchy book this year. Maureen, you've written not necessarily a witchy kind. Well, I'm like we said, a horror debut.
Cozy horror is apparently the term now that I've been, the TikTokers, those young
I would say
people.
yours fits in. Yeah. I think
Yeah.
yours fits into
They
cozy
know
horror.
it.
Yeah.
Cozy horror is apparently the genre.
And this is like obviously kind of adjacent to cozy horror of like, I would not say that Hex Education, I'm sure somebody could really make a strong case of it being cozy horror, but I would say it's more just like witchy and so obviously there's some similarities there, but what made you like shift into doing some witchy magical stuff?
So I have written kind of book clubby contemporary books under a different name before Suburban Hell, which came out last year. And I kind of wanted something a little different. I'm a huge horror fan, starting with, I saw the movie Poltergeist when I was 6, which was not a good idea. But it kind of seeded my love for horror and all things creepy. So, and specifically when I sat down to write, I mean, Suburban Hell and Hex Education, I wanted to write something that centered women, and not just women, but suburban moms. Because I feel like in the cozy horror space, that's really not something that's reflected at all. Or if it is, it's like the Karen next door, like the dorky, which is, that exists for a reason. Those people exist. But I also wanted to write something where the moms were the heroes. And because moms get the job done. So I wanted to write from that space because I felt like it was a perspective. It's what I live. I have 3 kids, I'm at home, but I wanted to write something and center what I was writing about next around moms and women, getting the job done. So for me, I wrote Suburban Hell, and then it was a 2-book contract, and I was talking to my editor about what to write next. And, I said I wanted it to be centered around the female experience again. And she was like, well, it's witches. And I was like, yep.
Sure.
She said witches first, but I was like, that is perfect. So I, went back and started researching and putting the story together. But certainly, I grew up watching all the witch movies and books. I'm a huge fan of all of it. So it was really wonderful to be able to write about it.
I love that. I love moms being, I actually love that both of your books focus on moms as main characters in some way, shape, or form. And that they're saving the day or making things amazing. I want to go back to what you were saying, KJ, about reading tarot since you have been in your teens, because that's like a big part of the book. And so have you always known that you were going to work that into a book at some point? Or
no. So I wanted to write about witches, but when I sat down and sort of tried to figure out, well, what makes my character magic? Like, what is the magic? What is, and I found myself really unable to connect with just like, it's just magic, which I love to read. Like I'll read all the There's Just Magic. Like, yeah, absolutely. But I just couldn't click with it. So I needed like hereditary magic, and it couldn't just be it's hereditary magic because it's hereditary magic. I needed something to ground it in, and it needed to be something that I was familiar with. And I don't know how the idea of using tarot came to me. Probably, pretty easily because tarot cards. They're not all over my house, but they're certainly around. And so that was like the part of magic that I felt the strongest personal connection to. And my personal connection is not actually to feel that they're magic. I don't. And that's something that Flair wrestles with within the book. Like her ability to read tarot cards is preternatural. I mean, it's beyond certainly beyond what I can do. It's beyond what she wants to do. But it's also, and her belief about them is that they're not telling you or what she wants to believe is that they're not telling you the future. They're not making demand, they're not what they say does not have to be true. Well, her family tarot deck is different, but regular tarot cards, that's what I believe about them true, that they're really just a way to ground yourself in your own story, to get a different perspective, to you lay out the cards and they're all a piece of a larger story, and then you kind of need to look at, well, like, what happened before this, what's going to happen afterwards, where do I see myself within this? And it's just like a different, it opens your own mind to a different angle on things, which is what I like.
I was really curious when I picked up Playing the Witch card, and I was like, I want to know if KJ has done like reading tarot, because I feel like that like comes through of all like some of the different nuance and the way that you talk about it.
And I also have tarot cards, and I could totally tell that was absolutely your wheelhouse. When I
did have somebody that I know that, so I only read for fun, and I hardly ever do it for other people. So I had a friend that does read regularly, like read it just so, because I was like, just make sure that I didn't do something that was just totally
right.
Maureen, do you read for other people, or will you only read for yourself?
Oh, I think I tried to do it for my daughter once, and she didn't like what I was saying, and I was like, yep, that's why I only do it for myself. So and it's not anything fancy. I'll just pull a card every now and then, and either love the message or decide I'm going to ignore it. So no, I mean, it's very recreational.
The tarot deck that exists in our house is I cannot believe they made this. A Meryl Streep tarot deck. It's just I love it so much. It's one of my favorite things.
So on every card, or how does that work?
A different character that she's played in a movie is on every card.
That's amazing. Who thought of that, right?
I don't know. Tarot decks for like everything.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. When we talked about characters for you, Maureen, we briefly at the top talked about Katy Perry, who, as you said, is kind of a fan favorite. I would like to know how Katy Perry came into existence. Like, we talked about Taylor Swift as a Halloween costume, and I was a little bit like, why are you not going as Katy Perry? What's happening here? How did this come to be?
So Katy Perry is my daughter's cat, Rosie. She is huge. She's orange. She likes like two people. Is
your daughter one of them?
Yes. Yeah. It's my daughter and my husband, which I don't know why she doesn't like me. I feed her. But she has an attitude. So it literally was like, what would it be like if she could talk? I don't think she would be having cat parties though, because again, I can't picture her liking that many other beings enough to invite them over. Yeah. But 100%. And what's funny is like, talking to readers and, doing events, and like, that is like the piece of the book that everyone wants to talk about. Like I did an event a couple weeks ago, and all anybody wanted to do was show me pictures of their cats. And I was like, well, this is fantastic. So talking cat is definitely a hit with people, and I feel like it's also because when people read it, they're like, yep, my cat's the same way. So I think I harnessed a lot of universal cat attributes in writing her.
Some cat attitudes.
Catitude, right?
Yeah. KJ, do you have a cat? Have you ever had a cat? You have 3 cats.
Yeah.
Do they have an attitude? Does this fit in?
I also have a German Shepherd and a poodle. So the cats are, they're kind of, they don't have that sort of like take over the house. Well, we have a male young cat, and he, as far as he's concerned, is in charge, but he's also very much like, here's my belly.
Yeah.
I joke that I could do an Instagram feed that's all Yoshi's belly. It could be like really Yoshi belly. And you just walk into any room in the house, and the cat is laying there as though he has been flayed.
So he would throw some parties.
Oh,
He
he
did
would
it right
go
since
all
he-
the parties. He's a lover. Well, yeah, he's a lover. Not
Was this Halloween party this weekend actually his idea? And your kids are just like
trapped in our cats are strictly indoor cats, and they will be in the basement, and there will be painter's tape over the door because teenagers are stupid, man. They let the cats out, and we have already been through that several times.
We're not doing it again. Not this weekend.
Doing that again.
Okay, one of the questions in the chat, which please feel free anybody to add in any questions, anything that we're talking about. But an earlier question that came in, they think this is now the perfect time to talk about it, is because Maureen, you're talking a little bit about also like your day as a mom of 3 and then also like writing. But Katie was wondering what your writing process involves for both of you.
Oh.
No, but Maureen, sorry. Maureen, you can go. I was clarifying. You're thinking about it. Yes.
As far as day-to-day writing process,
Yeah.
Well, right now I'm doing revisions for a book that'll be out next year, and it is due Monday, which so like planning this Halloween party obviously made complete sense right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, my kids are all in school, thankfully. So I do not have a fancy office. I write and revise in my bedroom with my laptop, you know, and my LaCroix next to me. So I work a few hours in the morning, and then we have 2 dogs as well. I have to take the dogs out, and then I come back and work. And then from about 3:30 until usually about 9, I am playing Uber driver for my kids. Driving, you know, everyone needs to be at practice at the same time. You know, it's an interesting stage of life. I mean, it's great, don't get me wrong. So, you know, when they were little though, I would take any chance that I got to write. You know, it was in the car at practice with the laptop, or, you know, writing ideas down on the napkins kind of thing, which I think really trained me. You know, someone asked me once about writer's block, and I, you know, gave an answer of, I am not allowed to have writer's block. Like when you have 20 minutes, that's all you have. So you just write something, even if it's like horrific, just to get things going. So for me, my writing life is just grabbing every opportunity I can to, you know, get something done, because without fail, I will be interrupted by a kid or a pet.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that resonates for several people listening to this.
I can hear my 2 dogs barking upstairs right now. So there is no rest around here.
No. KJ, how about you?
I do have a lovely office, which I share with my husband, so I don't typically write in here. And if I turned to the camera, you would see that it is full of all the things that can't be out at the party. So it's really crazy in here at the moment. But like Maureen, writing is the most important thing. So, you know, if I don't write another book, there's no point in answering emails or doing Instagram or writing an email newsletter or anything. Although I actually do most of that to share books that I love, because I've deteriorated into like, I just want to do this for fun. But the most important thing is to write another book. So I try to do that first. So when I'm drafting, that's the morning, and then everything else is the afternoon. When I'm revising, that tends to be like sort of a 24/7 all hands on deck, especially with a deadline. I'm sure it's end of day Monday though, Maureen. You'll be fine.
You know, my editor, Kate, I love her. She is a machine with her schedule. My last deadline was like 9 a.m. Monday. She didn't give me this one, so Kate, don't worry. But she, you know, I'm hoping it's end of day.
Totally end of day.
Computer problems.
Technically, probably midnight, because that's still Monday.
Right. 11:59.
Yeah, that would work
Please
for
don't
me.
watch this, Kate.
That's college student rules. And since your story originally, since Hex Education started with college dorms, I think that you should be allowed to.
Yeah, I agree.
That should be what.
Now I can plan my party.
Yeah. You have plenty of time.
I do not want to plan the party.
We could just take like 5 minutes at the end and just like walk you through it all as like a group project, and we'll just do some group think around it, and it'll be super fine.
Absolutely. We could do some brainstorming. That'd be fantastic.
Another question that came through is, what do you learn about yourself after writing a book?
Oh boy. KJ, you want to take this one first?
I don't typically know what was really bugging me and caused me to write the book until I start explaining the book to other people in stuff like this. So, I didn't necessarily know that I was obsessed with the idea of deep family history as much as I actually am. I didn't necessarily I often write about things that I want.
Okay.
So sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I do kind of wish, I certainly would not want to have been raised by Sin because she was not good at this thing, but it would be cool to have been raised by someone who was like, and now we will learn the tarot. Really not my mom's shtick. So yeah, I just often realize that there are sort of things that but sometimes just things I think would
Yeah.
be cool. I tend to really write over and over again about people who are having a really hard time figuring out will make them happy, which
Mhm.
suggests that I too have a hard time with that, which I totally do. But I've more learned that over the process of writing a lot of books, not necessarily every individual book. They're all about that in the end.
Yeah. I think I put a lot of myself at whatever particular place I'm at, mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever, into each book that I write. So it ends up being kind of this time capsule of, even from small things to, what movie I liked, or, I went to the grocery store and, whatever happened. So I pull a lot from my own life as much as I can, not like we're not doing spells over here yet. But, interactions or, things that happen, the real world piece. Certainly in Suburban Hell, I used a lot of my neighbors as inspiration. So I think, that book becomes kind of this sealed thing that represents whatever was going on in my life at the time, which is good and bad. I really don't reread my stuff, but when I do, like for a reading or whatever, it's interesting because the perspective that I have, when I have time away from it, I would write the book differently. So I feel
Mhm.
like when you write the book, it is such a reflection of where you are in that moment, because you couldn't, and I believe couldn't write that book again in that same way, because you might have changed or your perspective is different. So I learn something with each book that I write, or I'll put in things that I either don't want to experience, so I'm going to torture my character with it, or that I have experienced and want to bring that love, of whatever I did to the page.
I could just listen to both of you talk about that forever. That was like, oh, we can. That was such a great question, Kate, who asked that. That was really interesting to hear you both talk about. And then I was like wanting to know about your next books, which I'm not going to ask you because I'm sure that you can't tell us. You're in mid revisions.
I can talk about mine. KJ, are you working on something?
I'm working on something, but all I can tell you is that it's a rom-com and it's going to be a while.
It's going to be a while. We'll take it. That's totally fine. You can tell us a little bit about yours though, Maureen?
Yeah, it'll be out next year. It's called Nightmare of a Trip, and it's about a family who takes a road trip, which I have done with my kids, which is why I'm writing horror about it. That takes a road trip from the Midwest to Orlando to Disney. Well, it's Disney, but it's not Disney because I don't want Disney to hate me. And they
don't get in a fight with Disney over their IP. Yeah, that's fair.
And they pick up a ghost along the way. So,
oh my gosh,
there's a haunted Cracker Barrel, crazy motels kind of thing. There's a indoor water park, which is its own horror.
Yeah, you don't need to add anything to that.
So just add a poltergeist to that. So it's been fun to write.
Is this why you did Family Lampoon's Vacation as a movie night? Because you were like drawing inspiration. You thought this would be like the 2-for-1.
It's National Lampoon's Vacation meets Poltergeist. So my kids have already seen Poltergeist. So I was like, oh, of course, good parenting. I was like, let's watch this funny movie that won't scare you. Will traumatize them. So in a completely different way. Because they love the movie Christmas Vacation and they only know the characters from that movie. So there's like multiple inappropriate scenes between Chevy Chase and his wife in the movie, like nudity. And they're like, is that the mom from the movie? I'm like, I'm so sorry. So yes, that is why we watched it or attempted to.
Oops. It's fine. It's so fine. That sounds amazing. I cannot wait to have it. I am wondering, what do you think would happen if the characters from Hex Education and Playing the Witch card ended up in the same town and had lunch together?
Oh boy. Well, my characters would all be trying to hide whatever it was they're doing. So they would be trying to keep it on the down low.
Claire would be politely letting them, but if her mom was there, her mom would be like, come on, we're just all in this together. Everybody, let's do this thing. Let's see what we can make happen. Let's get some stuff
I don't know what you're
rolling.
talking about. I leave me alone. I will go to the bakery though and have some goodies. Your book made me so hungry.
It makes me hungry. It's really unfortunate.
I was like, I want all the baked goods immediately.
I love that answer. I love just thinking, if anybody who's watching wants to give their opinion on what would happen if these characters met, please drop them in the chat. I would love to see all of the theories about how this would play out, because I think that's always like a fun thing to hypothesize when two authors are talking, and I could just like see these worlds fitting so seamlessly together in such a like
good
way.
Yeah, you could put them together, like just
totally
drive a few hours, northeast, and you're in Chicago, and truly, Flair was originally from Chicago, because I've lived in Chicago but have not lived in St. Louis. Not that I don't love St. Louis, and I've totally been there. And the first kid I read tarot for was from St. Louis, so I remember that. But it was going to be Chicago, but it needed to be an easier drive. It was too far.
Yeah. Don't you love when that's the answer, and people are like, why did you choose whatever, and you're like, because it worked for the story.
In Vermont, set in New Hampshire and not Kansas, because it had to be within driving distance of New York. Like there was no story way to not, and you couldn't be a different story. It couldn't be a different place. So,
right.
Oh well.
Okay. I think this is the perfect time, because you also kind of teased this earlier, KJ, that if people follow you, you love to use your newsletter and some other things to talk about what else you're reading. I imagine that both of you have spent some time this fall reading some other witchy books. If somebody has read both of yours and is like, I have one more weekend, so I have one more witchy book in me, what do you think that they should read?
Only one.
Oh, no, you can give more. No. Sorry, you can give more. I'm saying theoretically, some people might only have time for one, but they can choose off of your list.
Yeah. Well, Practical Magic is the obvious choice. Hex is another one. Rachel, well, it's Erin Sterling. Rachel Hawkins. Erin Sterling is her pen name. That one's fantastic.
Also has a cat.
Yes, talking cat.
Yeah, those are super fun.
Yeah, so that's another good one. So either of those two.
Same vein, Lana Harper's books are fantastic. This is the latest one.
Yes.
If you haven't done Witches of Thistle Grove and you like witches, you got to do these, but I would start with the first one. I wouldn't start with this one. But the other thing I've read that I feel like is still flying a little bit under the radar, but I just finished it and I loved it, is The Scandalous Confessions of Lydia Bennet Witch. And you give me any Jane Austen retelling and I will at least give it a shot. But what I've really loved are the ones that so there's another one called The Other Bennet Sister, which she's not a witch, but she's super fun. That one's like Mary Bennet as you've never heard of her. And it's so fun. But this one, so it's the whole Pride and Prejudice story told from the point of view of Lydia Bennet, who is a witch. And so things are not happening the way that you think they are in the Joan Austen thing. And her sister Kitty is not really her sister. She's her familiar, a cat.
I love that.
But everyone thinks she's her sister.
I haven't read this one, so I'm putting this one on my list.
Really, it's a hardback, but it's worth it.
I got shelf space. I'm good. Yeah.
It's worth it. I enjoyed this so much. And the author is, I think she was a writer for Samantha Bee, and it's every bit as funny as you would think.
Oh, I didn't know that about Samantha Bee, about being a writer for Samantha Bee. That's so fun.
I think it was. Yes, here is Samantha Bee's blurb. Right. Secret about blurbs. That's kind of how. If you want Samantha Bee's blurb, that's pretty much how you have to do it.
that's how you get that. Yeah. Is there an author that you admire and why?
Yes.
I would go with Tara Jenkins Reid. I could just go with a whole lot of people at this point, but Tari Jenkins Reid, like, you know, people think Daisy Jones was like her debut, but it so wasn't. It was like her 8th book. And they're all different, which I think is really cool. She's all over the place, but they're all just really meticulous masterworks in their own way, or everyone that I've read. I have not read quite all of them, but she's kind of the I would like to be her when I grow up sort of situation.
A current author that I love is Rachel Harrison.
Her too.
Another cozy horror girly.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I read, I think it was her The Return was her first book. She writes women and their relationships so well. I remember reading that book and stopping and being like, oh my God, like it looked, yep. Well, and her new one too, Black Sheep, that just came out.
It's downstairs because I'm about to read it.
It's so good. You will love it.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I love that she's, you know, a woman writing in this space, and she really nails it with her characters can be unlikable. You know, they're badass. So I love what she's doing. I also love Grady Hendrix, who, you know, does the campy horror comedy mashup so well. So those two are always an auto buy for me.
There's a lot of the Southern Guide to Vampire Slayers in Playing the Witch card.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is. I can totally see that.
The Southern Book Club's Guide to Vampires.
Yeah.
Vampire Slaying, I think.
Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires.
Thank you. That is right.
It's somewhere behind me.
Yeah, no, I think you got that right. I think good job.
Sounds
really
right. Gold star.
Grady, I'm so mad at him for his last book, because it was great. But
I know. It had clowns and dolls and ventriloquist puppets, and like I literally read the last pages of that like this.
I know.
I'm not reading it. I'm reading.
I feel like he wanted to prove that he wanted to prove that he could do it, and he did. And I still read it when I normally wouldn't because it was him, but that was rude. It really was. It was. And I dread what he will do next, honestly.
Oh, it's gonna be bad. You know it will be.
Yeah, I can't even think what we should think. We should have a pool. Like what would be worse?
Yeah.
Clowns and dolls and ventriloquist dummies and
Right. Like you hit so many in the one book. What's next?
I know. I'm not sure, but he'll come up with it. Whatever it is, he'll come up with it.
Absolutely.
Have faith.
I love hearing your book recommendations. And if you have more, you can feel free to give them in lieu of what I'm going to ask you in the next question. But if you watch movies or TV or like listen to podcasts or other mediums, are there like other recs that you would give people for kind of this like spooky season?
Oh, I mean, all the witch, like growing up, you know, all the historical like witch movies, like The Craft, like I forget how old that is now, but like I looked it up and I was like, it cannot possibly be that old. Oh, it is. I was in high school and that came up, but my favorite witch movie is even older than that, and it's called Teen Witch. I don't know if you've seen it. It was put out in the 80s. And it's about a girl who comes into her powers and she uses them to become the most popular girl in school. It is the most 80s movie ever. There are random musical numbers, fantastic 80s fashion. I watched it
amazing
every day in grade school. And that's probably where all this started. Watch Teen Witch.
I love that so much. I'm going to.
I'm really kind of a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror girl. So that's my annual delight. So I'm going to go with another book. So I write a weekly email about books that I call #AmReading because my podcast is #AmWriting. And this is Villain Week because I read Starter Villain by John Scalzi. Mm-hmm. And if you like talking cats, just
the perfect book for it. Yeah.
Yeah, the tagline on the arc that I had was "Inheriting your uncle's supervillain business is harder than you'd think," and the cover is incredible. Like somebody just look up the cover because I don't. It's downstairs, and so it's Villain Week. So there's that, and then there's this, which was a total joy, except that I got to the end and it was a cliffhanger, so then I threw it across the room in deep fury, and then I immediately committed to reading the next one because it's so much fun.
Yep.
And then I read Michael Lewis's Going Infinite, which really fits very nicely into the villain trilogy. So, yeah, it's not very Halloween-y, but it sure is topical. And it was, I mean, not surprisingly, so good.
I recently read The September House. It's somewhere back there.
Oh, also incredible.
And, I've read so many haunted house books that I was like, you're kind of like, all right, but this was like such a unique take on the haunted house that I had never seen before, that I was like, I mean, like I said, I read so many haunted house books that it takes a lot to be like, oh, whoa. And this one made me go, oh, whoa.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So fantastic.
No, that one's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. No, to your point, KJ, I recommended Assistant to the Villain to my friend, and I was like, did you finish it yet? And she was like, no, I only have like 10% left to go. So obviously I know how it ends. And I was like, so she was like telling me that I could talk to her about it. I was like, I actually can't. I'm so sorry. And she was like, are you telling me this is the cliffhanger? And I was like, do I need to start prefacing this before I give it to people that this is the cliffhanger and you don't get to skip right through?
I was like at the end going, boy, there's not very much left. Boy, how are we gonna? Yeah, but it's so worth it. It doesn't matter. It's so good. But yeah, I do give that warning that if you don't like that, wait till just wait for the next one, so then you can read that.
It's like binging a show when it's all out.
Yes.
Like waiting, because I have no patience. So it's like, I'm going to watch 8 hours of this one day.
Well, a show that you should not give to your children to watch, you could, but probably not. But a show that I would say, if anybody is like, I need a medium for like this season, is if you're not watching The Fall of the House of Usher.
I knew you were going to say that. Because I watched it 2 days ago, all of it, every episode.
And you couldn't stop watching it, could you?
No, because I mean, you sort of knew where it was going, but I was like, no, this is happening. Like I went to dinner. I was like mad I had to go to dinner with my friends.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that's 2 hours. I could have watched 2 more episodes. So I came home and finished it. It's fantastic.
That's amazing. Yeah, my husband and I had a deal that you could watch it at whatever pace you wanted to, but you had to be ready to watch the finale by the end of the weekend.
Oh, I love that.
And we watched the finale like at 8 p.m. on like Sunday. I actually think we said originally Sunday night, and then both of us were dead by Saturday morning. You're like, can we the finale watch? I don't know, KJ. It could be. Listen, I'm just saying, it's quite good.
It's like spooky Succession.
Sounds amazing.
It's Succession, but make it horror.
It sounds amazing.
Rich people doing terrible things, then having terrible things. Their comeuppance comes. So it's great.
That does sound super fun. We can't watch anything in the house now because it's hockey season. So that's all we watch. There's a lot of hockey and we have to watch all of it. I'm sorry. It's possible that it doesn't actually happen unless we watch it. So we have to watch all of it.
You're the key.
Yeah. That's what I'm told.
That's what I'm told. I love that. Okay. Wild to say, but unfortunately, we're at the end of our hour. You two have both been so incredible to talk to and to hear you talk about your books. Like, I feel like we covered a lot of territory tonight. We covered your books. We covered Gilmore Girls. We covered Teen Witch, who I do need you to know, somebody else in the chat is reiterating that is a great movie. So
that's great. Yeah. there's a lot there.
You have an endorsement coming. I'm so sorry that we didn't plan your Halloween party, but we can stay in the green room. We can help you. I'll volunteer.
It's going to be a lot of dollar store decorations with some Domino's pizza. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Bags of candy, you're set. Everybody's happy.
Sounds like a great party.
I'll be hiding in my bedroom, but yeah. No, it'll be good. I'll make it work. I promise.
She'll make it work. She's a mom. She's going to make it work. She's going to get the job done. Get the job done. If anybody is watching and you haven't picked up these books, we have signed book plates. We have the books. We would love to get them into your hands. We do ship. And I will say these books are super fun to read, even if you don't make it in time before October 31st, because as we know, we like to read witchy books all year round. Actually, it's the perfect.
Absolutely.
It just feels especially fun to theme it.
And there is no real such thing as a Thanksgiving book, so just keep rolling.
There really isn't. It's really hard
early to start the Christmas books. So
no,
I feel like we just go.
It's kind of a forgotten little holiday.
Yeah, and yet I don't think we should necessarily dive into it. I'm not really feeling it as a new genre, but.
Come on, just give us like a little scene. Give us a Thanksgiving scene on our way to something else, and then
Thanksgiving novella.
Yeah. Little thing. KJ, Maureen, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody watching, thank you so much for hanging out with us all evening. Feel free to keep talking to each other in the comments, and if we didn't get to any questions, I'm so sorry. I think we got to most of them. But everybody can kind of expand upon your theories if you want to. Feel free to use this as like an open group public chat, because it's been very active, which is always very fun to see. So I hope you two have incredible Halloween parties. I hope you have great weekends. KJ, I hope you feel a little bit better. You would never know that you're sick, but I hope you feel better.
I hope I feel better too, because I'm hiking 15 miles tomorrow. So I hope I feel better by that.
And hosting a party.
Yeah. I'm a good planner too. That's what I'm saying. I'm a really good planner too. I don't have revisions due though, so I got that going.
I don't have revisions due. Yes. Also, good luck with your revisions, Maureen. You can do it. 11:59 p.m. Monday evening. You're gonna be.
It's gonna happen. It always does.
It's gonna happen. Oh my goodness. Okay. Good night, everybody. Thank you again so much for watching. Thank you to both of you. We will see everybody next time.
Happy spooky season, everyone.